The massive Imperial ship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark cloud threatening rain. Its sleek, purple-black hull reflected sunlight in ways that made human scientists scratch their heads. The ship was nearly 3 miles long, dwarfing anything humans had ever built. Admiral James Stone stood on the bridge of the U.S. Diplomat, Earth's most advanced spacecraft. His gray eyes studied the alien vessel through the main viewport. Despite leading hundreds of missions during his career, this was different. This was humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization. "They're hailing us again, sir," reported Officer Mark Wilson. His fingers hovered over the communication panel, waiting for orders. Stone straightened his blue uniform. "Accept the transmission." The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall, elegant being with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to glow from within. The Imperial commander looked down at the humans with barely hidden disgust. "Your species will submit to the Empire's authority," the alien stated. Its universal translator made the words clear but couldn't hide the condescending tone. "Your technological level is barely above primitive. Resistance would be pointless." Stone kept his voice level. "With respect, Commander, Earth wishes to establish peaceful diplomatic relations. We're prepared to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchange." The Imperial commander's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "Trade? Cultural exchange? Your species still relies on biological components. You haven't even mastered basic genetic engineering or consciousness transfer. You're nothing more than clever animals." Behind Stone, his crew maintained their professionalism, but he could feel their anger. Humanity had unified after discovering the Empire's presence in nearby space. They'd built the U.S. Diplomat as a symbol of peace, not weakness. "Commander," Stone tried again, "surely there's room in the galaxy for different approaches to advancement. We may be younger than your civilization, but we have much to offer." The Imperial ship's sensors suddenly powered up. Stone felt his stomach drop. Something was wrong. "Your continued argument proves your species' arrogance," the commander declared. "The Empire does not negotiate with lesser beings. You will submit, or we will make an example of your ship." Stone's military training kicked in. Shields up, full power to defensive systems. But the Empire's weapons were beyond anything Earth had prepared for. The first shot passed through their shields like they weren't there. The U.S. Diplomat shuddered. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Wilson shouted. "We're losing power." Stone grabbed his command chair as the ship rocked again. "Send the emergency signal to Earth. They need to know." The second shot cut through the bridge. Stone's last thought was of Earth, knowing the war that was about to begin. Back on Earth, military commanders watched in horror as their first diplomatic mission ended in destruction. The U.S. Diplomat exploded in a brilliant flash, its debris scattered across Earth's orbit like tears in space. In the United Earth Defense Headquarters, General Robert Miller slammed his fist on the conference table. They didn't even give them a chance to surrender. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had just declared war on humanity in the most brutal way possible. "They think we're weak," Miller continued, his voice growing stronger. "They think we'll give up now that they've shown their power." He looked around the room at Earth's combined military leadership, but they don't know humans. Across the planet, the news spread quickly. The Empire had expected panic, submission, and fear. Instead, they got something they'd never seen before: human determination. Factories converted to military production. Research facilities focused on weapons development. Former enemies became allies. Humanity did what it had always done best: adapt and prepare. The Empire's ships in orbit received a simple message from Earth: "You should have tried harder to kill us all." The Imperial commander dismissed the message as primitive bravado. In the coming days, he would learn just how wrong he was. The Empire had faced many species in its long history, but they had never fought humans before. They had no idea what they had just started. The first shots in humanity's greatest war had been fired. And unlike what the Empire expected, Earth wasn't running away. They were just getting started. Commander Robert Gray stood in the darkened control room of the stealth ship Shadow. The experimental vessel represented humanity's best chance at survival. Its hull was covered in materials that absorbed both light and sensor scans, making it nearly invisible to Imperial detection systems. "All ships report ready, sir," Lieutenant David Ford whispered, as if speaking too loudly might give away their position. Gray nodded, watching the tactical display. 5 Imperial warships hung in space above Mars, their crews confident in their superiority. They had no idea they were being hunted. "Remember the plan," Gray transmitted to his fleet of 10 stealth ships. "We hit them where they think they can't be hit." The Empire had spent 2 weeks destroying Earth's visible defense platforms and conventional warships. But humans had learned something valuable during those losses. The Empire always attacked the same way, following strict battle protocols that hadn't changed in centuries. The stealth fleet moved silently through space, each ship carrying a weapon the Empire had never faced: human ingenuity. "They're starting their patrol pattern," Ford reported. "Just like clockwork." Gray allowed himself a small smile. The Empire's predictability would be their downfall. "Launch the mines." Hundreds of small objects drifted from the stealth ships, each one powered down to avoid detection. They looked like debris from previous battles, and that's exactly what the Empire's sensors registered them as. The Imperial ships moved through the field of supposed debris, their commanders not even bothering to adjust course. Why should they? Their shields could handle any impact from space junk. "All ships in position," Ford confirmed. "Ready on your mark." Gray took a deep breath. "Send the activation code." The debris suddenly came to life. Each piece was actually a magnetic mine, designed to attach to the Imperial ships' hulls. Before the Empire could react, the mines activated their phase shift technology, passing through the shields as if they weren't there. "Direct hits confirmed." Ford's voice rose with excitement. "Their shields are still up, but the mines are inside them." The Imperial ship's commanders finally realized something was wrong. They began emergency maneuvers, but it was too late. "Detonate." The mines exploded in sequence, tearing holes in the mighty warships from the inside out. The Empire had never considered that someone would turn their own phase shift technology against them. But Gray wasn't done. Launch fighters. Small, one-man craft shot from the stealth ship's bays. Unlike traditional space fighters, these were piloted by humans wearing experimental neural interface suits. The direct brain-to-ship connection gave them reaction times that even the Empire's AI couldn't match. The Imperial ships, already damaged by the mines, found themselves swarmed by fighters that moved in ways their targeting computers couldn't predict. Human pilots, drawing on centuries of aerial combat experience, executed maneuvers that the Empire's rigid battle doctrine said were impossible. "Sir," Ford called out, "they're trying to call for reinforcements." "Not today," Gray replied. "Activate the jammers." Another human innovation kicked in. The Empire relied on quantum communication, believing it couldn't be blocked. They had never encountered humans' creative solution, flooding the quantum channels with so much random data that no clear signal could get through. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. When it was over, 5 Imperial warships lay broken in space, destroyed by an enemy they hadn't even seen coming. Gray opened a channel to Earth Command. "Phase 1 complete. The Empire's fleet above Mars has been eliminated." The response came quickly. "Confirmed, Commander." And the best part, their main fleet still doesn't know how we did it. As Gray's stealth fleet disappeared back into the darkness of space, alarms were going off throughout the Empire's command structure. Reports came in that made no sense. Ships destroyed by invisible enemies, shields bypassed by impossible weapons, communication systems failing for no apparent reason. The Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had judged humanity by their technology level, not their potential. They had expected humans to fight like everyone else in the galaxy, following the rules of warfare that had existed for millennia. Instead, humans had looked at those rules, smiled, and thrown them out the airlock. The war was just beginning, and the Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson. Never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history finding creative ways to win against superior forces. Captain Lisa Wells walked through the remains of the captured Imperial Research Facility on Europa. Her boots crunched on broken crystal displays as she made her way to the main laboratory. The fighting had been fierce, but humanity had won this prize, their first intact Imperial Research Center. "Look at this, Captain," called out Dr. Michael Ross, Earth's leading expert on alien technology. He stood before a massive holographic display, his eyes wide with excitement. Everything we thought about their tech was wrong. They didn't develop it. They inherited it. Wells moved closer, studying the ancient schematics floating in the air. "What do you mean?" "The Empire found most of their technology in ruins left by older civilizations. They learned to use it, but they never truly understood how it worked." Ross's fingers danced through the hologram, pulling up file after file. They'd been using the same designs for thousands of years, never changing, never improving. This revelation changed everything. The Empire wasn't unbeatable. They were stagnant. "How long until you can adapt some of this for our ships?" Wells asked. Ross grinned. "That's the beauty of it, Captain. We don't need to copy their tech. We can improve it." Within days, the facility became the heart of Earth's technological revolution. Human scientists, unfettered by the Empire's rigid thinking, began breaking down and rebuilding Imperial technology in ways its original users never imagined. Wells watched as the first hybrid weapons came online. They combined Imperial energy systems with human tactical innovations. The results were devastating. "Test firing in 3, 2, 1, the weapons officer announced. The new cannon fired, its beams splitting into multiple trajectories mid-flight, something the Empire had always considered impossible. Their energy weapons could only fire in straight lines because that's how they'd always worked. "Send the data to all Earth shipyards," Wells ordered. "We need these on every ship we have." But the Empire wasn't idle. They had finally realized the threat humans posed. Their response was to send their largest fleet yet, 50 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Admiral Stone's successor, Admiral Helen Cooper, stood on the bridge of the new Earth flagship Adaptation. The ship incorporated every breakthrough from the Europa facility, plus a few surprises. Enemy fleet dropping out of faster than light. Her tactical officer reported. "They're in standard attack formation." Cooper nodded. The Empire still hadn't learned. Launched the drones. Thousands of small, unmanned craft swarmed from Earth's ships. Unlike traditional drones, these carried miniaturized versions of the hybrid weapons. The Empire's sensors registered them as harmless reconnaissance units until they opened fire. The battle that followed would be studied for centuries. Imperial ships found their shields failing against weapons that shouldn't exist. Their formations were broken by tactics their computers couldn't predict. And worst of all, every time they adapted to one human strategy, 3 new ones appeared. "They're pulling back," someone shouted as the Imperial fleet began to retreat. Cooper allowed herself a small smile. "Not yet. Show them our last surprise." The Adaptation's main gun powered up. It looked like a standard Imperial heavy weapon, but humans had rebuilt its core. The Empire had always used these cannons at full power. No one had ever thought to modify their frequency. The beam lanced out, passing through the retreating ship's shields as if they weren't there. 3 Imperial vessels erupted into flames before the others managed to jump to safety. In the aftermath, Cooper received a message from Earth Command. "The Empire is mobilizing everything they have. They're calling us an existential threat to their way of life." "Good," Cooper replied. "They're finally starting to understand." The captured facility on Europa continued its work. Every day, human scientists and engineers found new ways to combine Earth's innovation with Imperial technology. Each breakthrough was immediately shared across Earth's forces, while the Empire remained bound by traditions thousands of years old. The war had entered a new phase. The Empire had superior numbers, but humans had something far more powerful: the ability to adapt, to innovate, and to never stop improving. As news of the battle spread, other species under Imperial rule began to watch more closely. Perhaps the mighty Empire wasn't as invincible as everyone had thought. The stage was set for even greater changes to come. Major Tom Walker floated silently in his stealth suit, watching the massive Imperial supply ship drift past his position. His team of 12 Special Forces operators, scattered around the vessel's hull, waited for his signal. They had been practicing this maneuver for weeks, but this was their first real attempt. "Control, this is Ghost Lead," Walker whispered into his comm. "Target is in position, ready to proceed." The response came back equally quiet. "Confirmed, Ghost Lead. Their sensors are focused on the meteor shower we created. You have a 10-minute window." Walker smiled behind his helmet. The meteor shower was actually thousands of tiny drones releasing interference particles. Another human innovation that the Empire hadn't adapted to yet. "Team, execute Breach Plan Delta," he ordered. His operators moved with practiced precision. Using modified Imperial phase shift technology, they passed through the ship's hull at carefully selected points. The Empire had never considered someone might turn their cargo loading technology into an infiltration tool. Walker entered last, emerging in a maintenance corridor. Their suits, incorporating captured Imperial stealth systems and human improvements, kept them invisible to internal sensors. "Reactor control is 3 decks down," his second-in-command, Kate Winters, reported. "Security patterns are exactly as predicted." That was the Empire's greatest weakness, their absolute adherence to procedure. Every ship followed the same security protocols, making them perfectly predictable to anyone who had studied them. The team moved through the ship like ghosts. Imperial crew members walked past them without a clue that death was inches away. Walker's team could have killed them all, but that wasn't the mission. They had bigger prey in mind. "Reactor room ahead," Winters whispered. 6 guards, just like the manual says. Walker nodded. "Execute." The team struck from multiple directions, modified stun weapons, combining Imperial energy technology with human nerve agent delivery systems, dropped the guards before they could raise an alarm. "Plant the package," Walker ordered. His engineers went to work, attaching small devices to key points in the reactor system. These weren't simple bombs. They were viral AI programs housed in quantum computers. Once activated, they would spread through the Empire's entire supply network. "Package planted. Timer set," Winters confirmed. "We have 5 minutes to clear the ship." They exited the same way they entered, passing through the hull just as another patrol passed. Once at a safe distance, they watched as the supply ship continued its journey, its crew unaware of what they were carrying. Ghost Lead to control. Mission accomplished. Beginning Phase 2. Across Imperial space, similar teams were boarding other supply ships. The Empire had never faced this kind of warfare before. Their massive fleets were designed to fight massive battles, not hunt invisible attackers who struck and disappeared. 3 days later, the viral AIs activated. Supply ships across 20 sectors suddenly found their navigation systems compromised. Some flew into suns. Others jumped to random coordinates. Many simply shut down, stranding Imperial warships without fuel or ammunition. In his command center, Walker watched the chaos unfold. "Send the message." A transmission went out to every Imperial commander in the affected sectors. "Your supply lines are now ours. Your ships are stranded. But we offer you a choice. Surrender your worlds, and we'll restore your systems." The Empire's response was predictable. They sent more ships, following the same protocols, falling into the same traps. They couldn't comprehend an enemy that didn't fight according to their ancient rules of warfare. "Sir," Winters called out, 3 Imperial worlds just contacted us. They're offering to defect." Walker nodded. This was just the beginning. Human Special Forces teams were already preparing for their next missions. The Empire's rigid structure was their greatest vulnerability, and humanity had learned to exploit every crack. "Send them our terms," he ordered, "and prep the next wave of teams. The Empire is about to learn why you should never corner a species that wrote the book on asymmetric warfare." As reports of supply line collapses spread through Imperial space, their commanders faced a terrifying reality. They weren't just fighting a war, they were fighting an enemy that didn't play by any rules but their own. The Empire was learning, too late, that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the biggest ships. It's the one you can't see coming. The Imperial High Command Chamber, once a symbol of unshakable power, now echoed with shouting voices. High Commander Marcus Reed, a human defector who had joined the Empire decades ago, watched the chaos with growing concern. "3 more core worlds have fallen," shouted one of the Imperial lords. "The humans aren't just winning battles, they're turning our own people against us." Reed understood why. Unlike his Imperial colleagues, he knew how humans thought. Every defeat, every lost ship, every fallen world wasn't just a military loss. It was proof that the Empire wasn't invincible. "My fleet refuses to engage human forces," another commander reported, his hologram flickering with interference. "The crews are saying it's suicide." They've seen what happened to the 5th Battle Group. The 5th Battle Group. Reed shuddered at the memory. 300 Imperial warships had cornered a human fleet of just 30 vessels. The humans should have been annihilated. Instead, they had turned the asteroid field into a death trap, using mining charges and gravity manipulation in ways that left the Imperial fleet in ruins. "We must adapt," Reed argued, standing up. "The humans aren't winning because their technology is better. They're winning because they're innovative, unpredictable." "Silence, defector." The Grand Admiral's voice boomed through the chamber. "The Empire has ruled space for 10,000 years. We will not change our ways because of some primitive species." But even as he spoke, more reports flooded in. Human forces had penetrated deep into Imperial territory. Their stealth ships appeared out of nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished before responses could be mounted. Worse, they were inspiring others. Subjugated species across the Empire were rising up, using human tactics, human weapons, human ideas. "The Imperial Academy on Centauri Prime has fallen," a messenger announced. The students, they joined the humans. Reed wasn't surprised. The young ones saw what their elders refused to acknowledge. The Empire's greatest strength had become its fatal weakness. Their unchanging nature, once a symbol of stability, now meant death in battle against an adaptive enemy. "Listen to me," Reed tried one last time. "I know humans. They don't want to destroy the Empire. They want to change it, if we just." A massive explosion rocked the chamber. Alarms blared as security forces rushed in. "Human strike force detected in the capital." Someone shouted. "They're using our own defense systems against us." The Grand Admiral stood, his face pale. "Impossible. Our security protocols are predictable," Reed finished, "just like everything else about the Empire." Through the chamber's massive windows, they watched as Imperial ships fought each other in orbit. Some remained loyal. Others had defected, turning their weapons on their former comrades. "The Empire is breaking," Reed said softly. "Not because humans destroyed it, but because they showed everyone a better way." The next few hours proved him right. Across Imperial space, younger commanders seized control from their rigid superiors. Entire fleets declared independence or pledged allegiance to the human-led alliance. In the capital, the sound of fighting grew closer. The Imperial guards, trained to fight according to ancient doctrines, fell before human special forces who rewrote the rules of combat with every engagement. "How?" the Grand Admiral whispered, watching his empire crumble. "How did they do this to us?" Reed looked at his former master with pity. "You thought humans would fight like everyone else, but humans don't accept limitations. They don't respect traditions that hold them back. Every time you thought you had them beaten, they evolved. The chamber doors burst open. Human soldiers entered, led by Admiral Cooper herself. She looked at the gathered Imperial leadership and said 6 words that would be remembered for centuries. Your empire of stagnation is over. The Empire hadn't just lost a war. It had lost its identity, its invincibility, its certainty, all because it had dismissed a species that refused to accept that something was impossible just because everyone said it was. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere out there, humanity was still evolving, still adapting, still finding new ways to do the impossible. That was the true power that broke the Empire. The Imperial throne room, once decorated with ancient artifacts and symbols of power, had been transformed into a war room. Admiral Cooper stood before a massive holographic display, surrounded by both human officers and former Imperial commanders who had joined their cause. The Loyalist fleets are gathering here. She pointed to a cluster of red dots near the Empire's core worlds. They're falling back to their oldest strongholds, preparing for what they think will be a final stand. Commander Daniel West, leader of Earth's Combined Warfare Division, stepped forward. They expect us to attack head-on. It's the honorable way according to their traditions. Then let's show them something dishonorable. Cooper smiled. The plan they unveiled was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Humans had studied every aspect of warfare: space combat, ground operations, psychological warfare, economic disruption, and combined them in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. Launch Operation Checkmate, Cooper ordered. Across Imperial space, human stealth ships appeared near planetary defense stations, but instead of attacking, they broadcast footage of Imperial ships firing on civilian targets, of the Empire's brutal suppression of its own people, of the corruption that ran through its highest ranks. The truth is our first weapon, West explained to the former Imperial commanders. Your people aren't just fighting us anymore. They're fighting their own conscience. The Loyalist fleets found their own crews questioning orders. Planets they thought secure began refusing to provide supplies. The Empire's iron grip was weakening not through force, but through revelation. Second phase, Cooper commanded. Human ships jumped into battle, but not to engage. They danced through enemy formations, their advanced AI targeting systems predicting Imperial maneuvers before they happened. Each move was calculated to create chaos, to break the rigid battle lines the Empire relied on. They're trying to regroup, an officer reported. Now, Cooper ordered. The true attack came from below. While space battles raged, human ground forces emerged from hidden bases on worlds the Empire thought they controlled. These weren't just soldiers. They were specialists in Imperial technology, culture, and psychology. The Imperial forces found themselves fighting an enemy that understood them better than they understood themselves. Human troops used modified Imperial weapons, spoke their languages, and knew their tactics better than they did. Their largest fleet is breaking formation, West announced. They're not just retreating, they're surrendering. Cooper nodded. This was the difference between human warfare and Imperial doctrine. The Empire fought to destroy. Humans fought to win. Send the offer, she ordered. All across Imperial space, military commanders received the same message. Join us and help build something better than the Empire ever was. Keep your ranks, your honors, your pride, but learn to grow, to adapt, to evolve. The response was overwhelming. Centuries of rigid control crumbled before the promise of freedom to think, to innovate, to change. In the former throne room, Cooper watched as another red dot turned green on the display. How many worlds are still loyal to the old empire? Less than 10%, West replied, and falling by the hour. An Imperial admiral who had joined their cause weeks ago spoke up. You could have destroyed us all. Your weapons, your tactics, you could have reduced our worlds to ash. Why didn't you? Cooper turned to him. Because that's not what humans do. We don't want to destroy civilization. We want to improve it. Every world that joins us makes us stronger, adds new ideas, new perspectives. The display showed another fleet surrendering, another world joining the alliance. The Empire hadn't just lost a war, it had lost its way of thinking. "Send word to Earth," Cooper ordered. "Tell them the war is nearly over, but our real work is just beginning." As her words echoed through the ancient chamber, the galaxy was already changing. The Empire's fall wasn't marking an end, it was marking a beginning. A new age was dawning, one where adaptation was strength, where innovation was celebrated, where the only constant was change itself. And humanity, the species that had caused this revolution, was leading the way. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Alliance hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to witness something unprecedented. On the central platform, Admiral Cooper stood beside the last Imperial Grand Admiral, preparing to send a message to every civilization in known space. "Are you sure about this?" the Grand Admiral asked. "Once we send this, there's no going back." Cooper nodded. "They need to know. All of them." The transmission began. Across the galaxy, on millions of screens and holographic displays, the joint broadcast appeared. What followed wasn't just a message, it was a warning. To all spacefaring civilizations, Cooper began, "What you are about to see is the complete, unedited record of humanity's war with the Galactic Empire." The footage played, showing everything. Human ships appearing from nowhere to strike powerful Imperial fleets. Special forces teams infiltrating supposedly impregnable fortresses. New weapons and tactics that turned the Empire's own technology against it. But more importantly, it showed how humans fought. Not with blind aggression, but with careful planning, innovation, and an endless ability to adapt. "We could have destroyed the Empire," Cooper continued. "Instead, we chose to transform it, to show that change isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace." The Grand Admiral stepped forward. "I fought against humans. I commanded fleets against them. And I learned something that every species needs to understand. Humans don't fight like anyone else." The footage showed human victories, but also showed their mercy. Captured worlds weren't destroyed but rebuilt. Defeated enemies became allies. The Empire's rigid structure was replaced with something new, a society that valued progress over tradition. "This is not a threat," Cooper clarified. "This is a lesson. Humanity doesn't want war. We want growth, innovation, exchange of ideas. But if forced to fight," the final scenes played. Imperial fleets surrendering not because they were beaten, but because humans showed them a better way. "We offer friendship to all," Cooper said. "But remember what happened to the Empire. They thought humans were primitive because we still had biological bodies, because we weren't as technologically advanced. They learned too late that technology isn't everything." Across the galaxy, ancient races watched in stunned silence. Militant species reconsidered their expansion plans. Peaceful civilizations reached for their communication arrays, eager to establish contact with these unusual humans. The Empire ruled through force and fear for 10,000 years. The Grand Admiral added, "Humans broke that rule in less than 2 years. Not through superior numbers or advanced weapons, but through innovation, adaptation, and understanding." The message concluded with scenes from the new Galactic Alliance, former Imperial worlds working alongside human colonies, sharing knowledge, growing together. "Remember this warning," Cooper finished. "If you come in peace, you'll find no better friends than humans. If you come for war, you'll find no worse enemy." The transmission ended, but its impact was just beginning. Within hours, diplomatic requests flooded in from hundreds of civilizations. Some sought alliance, others simply wanted to learn. In the council chamber, Cooper turned to her staff. "How many responses so far?" "Over 300 civilizations requesting immediate diplomatic relations," her aide reported. "Even the isolationist sectors are reaching out." The Grand Admiral shook his head in amazement. "You've changed everything. The galaxy will never be the same." "That was the point," Cooper smiled. The Empire proved that stagnation leads to downfall. Humanity proved that adaptation leads to growth. As the day ended, news arrived of yet more civilizations seeking contact. The message had done more than warn. It had inspired. Species that had followed the Empire's example for millennia were suddenly questioning everything they knew. The war was truly over, but its lessons would echo through the galaxy forever. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as catalysts for change. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all. For in the end, the Empire's greatest mistake wasn't starting a war with humans. It was showing the galaxy exactly what humans could do.